Good morning, Aviaddicts. To give you a break from all the joints, and me a break from the joints, what I thought we'd look at today is the flying controls. So here you have the diagram of the flying controls, and what happens here is you've got the control column here, and it goes down to 2 feet there and there, which allows the control column to pivot that way. We'll have a look on the cockpit in a minute and you'll be able to see it. We're going to basically try and strip down some original wreckage today, because one of my feet joints is actually a replica, and I've managed to find from my sort of stores of Battle of Britain aircraft, Mk1 aircraft wreckage, the joints that one of these hinges we can actually use. And then what happens is they're all mounted on these parallel tubes. You've got these 2 parallel tubes that join the rear spar to the front spar, and they're mounted on that, and the heel boards are also mounted to them, and also the rudder pedal unit, which is quite a complex unit there, and then you've got the rudder pedals there as well, and then the control movements for turning the aircraft and also climbing and diving are transmitted by an elevator pick-off, which goes to this horn unit here, again all mounted on these parallel tubes, and that allows the elevator to go how does it get bigger, how does it get smaller basically. And then the aileron inputs are transmitted by the control column through these chains and rods to this universal joint that then rotates that, and that goes out to each of the ailerons on the wings. Very simple. This, incidentally, is the same sort of design that was also used on the early Hawker fighters between the wars, or some of them, and also this is very similar to what was fitted to the Typhoon and the Tempest. The parts manual gives us it in more detail. So this is the base of the control column. So there, and that's the base of the control column. So one of the feet that we're going to look at today to dismantle would go on there, and you get one on the other side, and then the spay grip as well. As we've discussed before, these items here, these are the longitudinal tubes, the 2 parallel tubes that all the machine controls fit to, or the flying controls fit to, but they used to call them machine controls. Anyway, so what you've got is you've got the spay grip, all these numbers, you could look those up and they would give you the part number of the yoke here, this part, or radius arm as I like to call it, and then the spay grip, that would give you the part number of that, which is an AH2040, which would be stamped over there. This is the base of the rudder pedals. So these pick up on the heel boards, so these tubes extend, and then you've got the heel boards going each side, and also then you've got the pivot here where the pedals go, so in there. Later Hurricanes had 2-tier pedals, exactly like the Spitfire. The Spitfire had single tier with Supermarine on them, which we'll show you in another video, but the later ones had 2 tiers, so you can actually get some leverage to and put your foot in between the 2 bars if you wanted to. This is the elevator, the elevator pick-off that goes halfway up the control column, as we saw there. Okay, so I think that's that. The bell crank, so the for the elevator then goes into this part here, and then obviously that rotates like that to give you elevator tail down to dive, and elevator tail skin up to climb. And then there's just a few more exploded pictures of the rudder bar and where the control rods come off there. And then this final boring little thing here, that's basically goes on the back of this this rudder pedal casting, and that is, if you like, a limit stop to stop you to basically stop you over selecting rudder. So that would be set up to give you, I don't know, something like 10 degrees of rudder each way, or maybe a bit more. We'll look into that and bring that to you in a future video. So that's a quick whiz around there. Let's go and have a look at it the aircraft. So this is the control column. I haven't actually got the spay grip fitted to it at the moment, because I wasn't going to do that until we do a lot more tidying in the cockpit, so it doesn't get damaged. And as I said before, you rotate it side to side, and these rods go through chains down to the bottom of the control column there. And then, so that would give you, that would be a left turn, and that would be a right turn. And then if you wanted to climb, you would pull control column back. It's very stiff. And then if you wanted to descend, you push the control column forward. So if we go left and then right, let's look at what it does to the controls at the back. So we'll go down here. So you can see the aileron drum there. So if we go left, push it left, it goes left, rotates counterclockwise, and if you go right, it goes the other way. So that would then go to the ailerons in the wings. That was the elevator pickoff. So you can see it actually on the stick there, on that lug. And then what happens is, as you pull control column back, you'll see the bell crank at the back go aft, and if you push it forward, it goes forward. So houses get smaller, houses get bigger. Very simple, and it's specially harmonized or designed so that if you put an input in the longitudinal axis, so that's the pitch axis to climb or descend, it won't put an input in the roll axis either. So it's well designed. So coming forward, the item we're going to be stripping down today is this. That's a replica one. I think the one on the other side's a real one. Yes, it is. So I want to replace that because I want original items throughout wherever I can use them. So there's a bit of restoration to do to it. But I'll show you on the wreckage, and then you'll get an idea of the wreckage and how it comes to us. Looking at the rudder pedals. So if you think back to the mentioned there, single tier. So again, these have history, that's why they've been repaired here. So there, the main bar is from Capon's Hurricane, I believe. And then you've got a star wheel here, which adjusts the throw to the pedals for to adjust for the pilot's legs and the leg length. And then if we move down, it's quite useful being when it's all pulled apart like this, or because then what you get to do is you get to see it in you get to see what I'm on about and in detail if you need to. I did actually think I needed another one of these. These are only steel and they're sandwich, and then basically they join it to these longitudinal tubes, the parallel tubes I mentioned earlier. But I've realised I've got two original ones, which is great news. But I do have a spare one, so I'll show you that. We will strip that down because other people need those. This is the buffer stop that I mentioned for the pedals to stop it over selecting too much rudder position. And then what would happen is you've also got a little crank on it which goes to the differential brakes. Before I forget about it, there are two manuals that are very, very useful, especially for modelers. And one of them is the Hurricane 2 manual, which was produced by Arm and Armour's Press some years ago and has been reprinted, I believe, by Kretschy Publishing, done on behalf of the RAF Museum. You can get original copies of this from the sort of 70s and 80s. They're quite expensive, or you can get the updated one. It has the same details in it. So I've been using this a lot. So for instance, we've been talking and referring to it. It has pilot's notes in it. It has lots of other bits and pieces, and wiring diagrams and things like that. And how you lubricate, for instance, the control column and pedals that we've just been talking about. This is a Mark II, which has the two-tier pedals. And another excellent reference is this Hawker Hurricane manual in the Haynes series. It's a bit like the car workshop manuals you get. This is a brilliant one. It was done by Paul Blacker, who was long-term in the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, and it's brilliant. They were slightly tongue-in-cheek, the original ones, but to be honest, they are really good and good reference material. They give lots of bits. I won't show too much from it, but I wrote a bit for it about the restoring a static Hurricane. So this is my Hurricane cockpit a few years ago before it moved to where it is now. There's quite a nice photograph of all the original bits and pieces and the woodwork that I had from Last of the Many and other panels. In fact, most of this that you see here, apart from that undercarriage leg and that wheel and the seat and the control column, the rest comes from Last of the Many. So yeah, so that's worth looking at. And obviously I'll talk a little bit about the spay grip in there, but there's lots and lots of bits in there about rebuilding Hurricanes and the differences between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2. So well worth a look through. Don't think it's in print anymore, and it's peanuts. You can get it on eBay on internet auction sites. Others are available for peanuts, literally £7 or £8, and or indeed the wonderful Sparkford Motor Museum down in Somerset. I think they probably still have it in there as well, because that was started by Haynes. Okay, so this is the mount that I was talking about. So I think this is the port one, but they are both the same. So you've got the grease nipple at the top, you've got a lot of distortion. This came from a Mark 1 Hurricane that was sadly lost in an accident. We've got all the history of it, and it will go into the big book of parts that we use in the project. So that's that. We will take this off and use this. We'll need various cleaning up before we use it. You'll also notice it's still got remains of the silver paint on it. There's a lot of sort of talk about interior colours for the Hurricane. Hurricane Mark IIs tended to be cockpit green inside, the whole shebang as it were, including the control column and the woodwork. Hurricane 1s tended to be silver inside, apart from the instrument panel and the woodwork, which was cockpit green, but even the control column was silver. We'll show you some control column bits later as part of this video, and hopefully you'll find that interesting. So here is the foot removed. You can see it's quite distorted, so we'll have to beat it a little bit just to make it a little bit more truer, so it then lines up with the holes on the parallel tubes. There's a little bit of damage to the grease nipple, but what I'll probably do is re-drill the hole to make sure we can use the original grease nipple to grease it. This is the phosphor bronze bush that goes on the inside, and you can see we've got some damage to the hole. Hoping we may not have to re-weld that. We'll see, because sometimes the welds break when we try and straighten these to actually use them. Okay, we're now in the nice warm. So this is a Hawker Hurricane stick out of the aircraft. So this is not one I'm going to use. This is basically a bit like my Hurricane project, a Bitzer. So what you've got here is that's the pick off that you saw. These are the feet that allow it to swivel back and forth, and that's the pick off for the elevator control rod, and that's the pick off for the aileron. Then got these rods, they're a bit bent because they're all original. So the left rod, that side, is from P3202, whose pilot was Pilot Officer Colin Gray from 43 Squadron, and the right rod is from V6638, whose pilot was Flying Officer AAG Truman of 253 Squadron. So that's pretty good. The base is from V6672, which was Sergeant Pilot VH Eakins of 501 Squadron. So there's quite a few original parts there. This was replaced, I think, from PZX65 Last of the Many. So that's an original knuckle there. Moving further up, what you've got the spay grip, and this is the radius arm, grease nipple here, and then you've got the these are the air pipes that go to the gun button, and they're marked. Each pipe is marked in and out, so it basically goes through the valve, which is the gun button here. So if we look at the gun button has two positions. That's in the safe at the moment, and then you move it round to the fire. So that's the fire position. It's an AH2040, which is the part number for a Hawker Hurricane. The early one, didn't have this split in them, so they were remarkably difficult to get and replace off the control column. So the later ones had this little split done, so they drilled a little tiny 3/16 hole, or even probably smaller than that, actually, inch, and then millimetre diameter, I suppose, and then just cut that to make it easier. So the grips are made by Dunlops, and then if you turn it over, what you've got here is this is the Bowden cable coming off the brake lever. So these would control the brakes during on the ground. So if you had the pedals in the neutral position, you would brake both pedals, and it would pump up the airbags in each of the main wheels, and it would bring you to a halt going straight forward. If you wanted to go left, you put a boot full of left rudder, and it would go via the rudder pedals would be linked to a valve, Dunlop valve again, which would then operate the pedals, and then basically mean that you would just brake the left wheel. And similarly for the right side. This is the chain guard cover here, Bowden cable through an adjustable link here, and then that goes off to the rest of the aircraft, and these are the cogs at the back. You'd normally have a little chain guard on here, but the chain guard did not survive Eakins' crash site, sadly. So that's the control column. Wonderful piece. We will come back to it because anyone who knows me knows I'm really rather passionate about control columns, especially Hurricane spade grips. So yeah, so the pipes go then up there. So you've literally got two pipes going in and out. That's about it, really. People try to replicate this covering. Covering was used right up to the Tornado, which was one of the last grips that they Dunlop ever made, was for the Tornado GR1 and F3s, and you still get this amazing covering on that, and it's thermoset basically, and I think it would come off on a greaseproof paper, and you just put it around there, and it tends to break off on this side because these gun buttons tend to either be removed or as the control gun covering off. The only thing missing from this is you'd have a brake lever catch, so I'll show you very, very quickly on another grip, brake lever catch. It might be on today's vlog or maybe not. I hope you've enjoyed today's little introduction to the flying controls on the Hurricane. We will cover it in more detail later, but if you've liked it, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you later. Fly safely.